Today I'm going to cover a review on solving equations. So just a reminder as to what we're doing when we're solving equations. We're trying to get the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. Now it doesn't matter which side, left or right, but it just needs to be isolated or by itself. So for this first problem, we have x minus 8 equals 20. So we want to move this 8 over. So we have to do the opposite. 8 is being subtracted, so I'm going to add it to the other side. Now these cancel because negative 8 plus 8 gives us 0, leaving us with just x on the left, equals 20 plus 8 is 28. Now with this next problem, remember that a number and a letter right next to each other means multiply. So we're going to do the opposite of multiply, and we're going to divide by 5 on both sides. So x will give us 20 divided by 5 is 4. All right, now we're moving into some two-step equations, so a little more to do to get that x by itself in this case. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to add 5 on both sides. Now those will cancel, leaving us with 5x equals, so negative 25 plus 5 will give us negative 20. We'll then divide both sides by 5, because remember that number and a letter right next to each other mean multiply. So that leaves us with x equals negative 4. Do not forget about that negative sign right there. That's a tricky piece, all right? That can get forgotten really easily. All right, now this next one, you see our variables on the right, and that's okay. So I'm going to take everything and move it over to the left except for our x. Now sometimes it's helpful to draw a line down where the equal sign is. That allows you to kind of clearly see the sides. It might help you keep organized a little better. So we want to get this letter by itself. So we want to try to take care of the number that's right with the letter last. So that means that we're going to move this 1 over. Now again, we're going to subtract the 1 because we want to use the opposite operation. So if we just have it added 1, we're going to subtract 1 to start to get the variable by itself. So on the left side, we're going to have 9 equals, and then we're left with negative 3x. Lastly, we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. So we get x equals negative 3. And that's because 9 divided by negative 3 gives us a negative 3. All right, this one's a little different because we have this fraction here at the beginning. Now, keep in mind that fractions really mean division. So to undo the division, we're going to multiply. But we don't want to do that just yet. We want to take care of this 9 first. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So I have x over 2 equals 11 minus 9 will give me 2. And then I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator. So I'm left with x equals 4. Saw that we had the fraction where it was just x over one number. This one is a little bit different. Now in the last problem, now in this case, we have that x plus 3 is on top of that 10. So we need to, before we can get to that 3, we need to take care of the 10. So in this case, I'm going to multiply both sides by 10. Now when we do that, that just leaves us with the numerator. So we have x plus 3 equals 1 times 10 is 10. We're then going to subtract the 3 on both sides. We have x equals 10 minus 3 will give us 7. Now we know we're done each problem when we get that x all by itself. So here we have a few different things. We have a few more steps we're going to have to take, but the first thing you always want to try to do is combine like terms if possible. All right, now I see that my negative 3 and my 12 they're on the same side of the equal sign, and they are like terms because they both do not have a variable with them. So I'm going to just combine those together. I'm not switching any signs around. I'm just going to combine them together. So 12 and negative 3, or 12 minus 3, will give us 9. Right? And then I'm just going to carry down what we haven't used yet. So plus 7x equals 30. Now I make that a plus 7x because it's still a positive 7x. If it were negative, there'd be a minus sign there. Now we're just going to go about solving like we have been. So subtract 9 from both sides. I have 7x equals 21. Divide both sides by 7. X equals 3. All right, now here we have parentheses, so we want to take care of that first. Now reminder that this parentheses means multiply. So we're going to distribute that negative 6 with the negative 1x and the 2. So remember that negative times a negative is a positive. So we're going to get a positive 6x minus 12, because negative 6 times 2 equals negative 24. All right, so now I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Now I'm left with 6x on the left. Here, I'm going to draw that line in. Equals negative 24 plus 12. Watch your signs here. That's where it's going to get tricky. So you're going to get negative 12. Then we divide both sides by 6. X equals negative 2. All right, and that's negative 12 divided by 6. Don't forget about that negative sign. All right, and lastly, we have problems with the variable on both sides. So our goal here is to get all the x's together, or whatever the variable is, and we want to get them to one side together. Now to do that, we're going to have to add or subtract one of the terms to the other side. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to show you that we could move the variables to the left or the right. So in this case, I'm going to move them to the right. So I'm going to put my x's over here and my numbers on this side. So if I want to move my x's over, I got to get this 4x over to that 5x. Now to move it across the equal sign, we either have to add or subtract. So I'm going to start by subtracting 4x. Now that leaves me with 3 on the left equals 5 minus 4 gives me 1. Now remember, when we have just an x, there's really an invisible 1 out front of it. So we don't need to put the 1. You can if you'd like, but we don't need to. And we still have our plus 7. So now what we're going to do is we're going to subtract that 7 over to the 3. That leaves us with our x all by itself on the right. So we have 3 minus 7 gives us negative 4. So our variable's by itself. It doesn't matter that it's on the right side, but it's all by itself over there. All right, and then this last one, we're going to multiply, distribute first. Okay, so I'm distributing my 3 on that first side. So 3 times 2x will give me 6x. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Equals 9 times x is 9x. 9 times 3 is going to give me 27. All right, and then we have our variables on both sides again. So this time I'm going to move my x's over to the left and my numbers over to the right, just to show you that, again, it'll work. So if I'm doing that, I'm going to subtract my 9x over to the left. All right, now I'm subtracting it because it's a positive 9x. So we're going to do the opposite sign. So 6 minus 9 will give me negative 3x. I'm going to carry down my negative 3 equals 27. All right, I'm going to then add 3 to both sides. So I have negative 3x equals 27 plus 3 is 30. Divide by negative 3. I get x equals, now we have a positive divided by a negative, so that's going to leave us with a negative sign. And then 30 divided by 3 is 10. So x equals negative 10.